Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Here I am again today with an unedited video. I'm currently having computer problems, but I'm going to continue to push content out. I'm not going to let anything stop me from my calling, stop me from my walk with God. I'm just going to continue to push myself through. But today I have a few things that I want to discuss. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about it as far as topic or title currently, but after I'm finished saying what I have to say, I'm just going to move forward from there. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is channeling emotions and maturity. Okay, so how I work when it comes to explaining a concept or diving into a topic, I'm very analytical. I analyze things and I go by breaking things apart. So we're going to start with the definition of maturity. As we all know, the root word of maturity is mature, and it says adult, grown up, and fully developed. And I do have my computer before me because I typed up a couple of things that I wanted to talk about today. But if we look at maturity from a psychological stance, it says the ability to respond to the environment in an appropriate manner. Maturity also encompasses being aware of the correct time and location to behave and knowing when to act according to the circumstances and the culture of society, the society that we live in. Okay? So think about that I'm just going to reread that second part because something struck when I read that. Maturity also encompasses being aware of the correct time and location. As we all know, there's a time and place for everything. Whether it's an interaction, we all know that. To behave and knowing when to act according to the circumstances and the culture of the society one lives in. I'm not going to dwell too deep into the culture and society that's going on another spectrum. I do have experience in sociology and psychology. I am a mass comm major, but before my foundation courses did, coincide with this. All right. But one thing I wanted to talk about is how we give people too much control. And you're going to notice a common theme with my topics. They're going to be different, but it's one thing that I want us all to understand, that you're never alone and you cannot give people too much power, which is something that we all have done before. So when controlling your emotions, we need to understand how to communicate properly. Communication is vital. It's a necessity for us to get through in life. And you're going to have times where how you communicate and how I may communicate is going to be two different things. We're not going to always communicate the same way. And as oddly as it may sound, everyone doesn't know how to communicate. Because it's nothing that is always taught. It's a developmental skill, as I like to call it. But we got to be able to make those adjustments and know when to react to something. So we have to learn how to control our emotions and cope better, which is going to require a mental shift. Now, mindset is a huge thing to consider when it comes to this. So for a brief moment, think about the things that you do, why you do them. Just for a moment. And I'm going to think about myself too as well in this little brief moment. Why do I act the way I act? Why do I do the things that I do? And this can go back to whether you're in the previous video, are you seeking validation from people? That could be a reason for why you act the way you act. Do you have lower self-esteem? Do you not know how to react? Do you not know how to respond when you're dealing with things? Do you not know how emotions work in general? There's a lot of reasons why people don't understand how to cope and respond properly to emotions. But with emotions and with controlling and coping them, we have to be able to learn what peace is and patience. Now, I remember last year, patience, because I've always been a mellow person, I thought I was a patient person because I'm mellow and chill, but that's not always the case. And God really tested me with that through the same situation. Sometimes God will give you situations and put you in a cycle. And it feels like your life is just going and going and going. You're going to keep going through the same things because you have yet to learn your lesson. And that's something to think about. If you're constantly put back and placed back in the same situation in your life, and it's a repeated cycle, it's up to you to break that cycle for one. You were placed in it, 9 times out of 10 by choice. But God allows those things. Why? Because God granted us free will. But what comes with that is when you make a choice, consequences. And whether the choice is good or bad, it doesn't matter. Choices, whether it's a reward or consequence, you're going to get something back. When you put something out into the atmosphere, something always comes back. So, you may be on a repeated cycle And that repeated cycle hasn't been broken because you haven't changed your reaction to your situation. You haven't adjusted or tried to make a difference. But if we look at the definition of peace, which I love the definition, it says free from disturbance. Now, what is a disturbance? As we all know, it's an interruption. Something is interrupting. What is it interrupting? It's interrupting that balance, that stability. See, that's one thing that we as people don't like, to feel unbalanced, uneasy. Why? Because we want control, which is something that we have to learn to let go of. Because oftentimes God will place you in an unbalanced situation to elevate you, to move you up, or to show you something or prepare you to be moved. It's not going to be right away. Oh, something's unbalanced in my life. That means God ready to move me. No, God's ready to show you something to elevate you. And when you're comfortable, because sometimes we're comfortable in a situation we shouldn't be comfortable in. And all of a sudden things go haywire and you're sitting there wondering why has something happened? Why has something changed in my life? Well, God's trying to show you something. You have no business being comfortable in the situation you're in because you're far greater than what you have allowed yourself to be in. Because sometimes when we have expectations that we haven't met ourselves, we lower our own standards. That's something, and I'm going off topic a little bit, but this is where it's leading me. When you get in a situation and you lower your own standards and you become comfortable, God is going to stir it up, because God has far greater things for you than what you have for yourself. So oftentimes we get in situations and wonder why things are not working out the way we want them to work it out. And because we think, well, this is my potential. This is all I have. No, it isn't all you have. You give all of yourself to God. God will show you all you really have. And that goes back to video 1. What's in you, what's inside of you. And if you haven't seen those videos, it's Praying for the Opportunity, which is my first video, and Who Are You Seeking Validation From? It's my second video. In this video, I'm just talking today. But something that was placed on my heart deeply is because somebody recently said to me, don't go through things alone. And I had to think about that. Now, take this slightly loosely, because God does place people in your life for you. But for me, when this person said, don't go through life alone, the first time in my life, I smiled about that, because I'm like, I'm not alone. In my head, I thought to myself, I'm not alone. I got God. And that's one thing that God wants you to understand, to know that you're not alone on this walk. When you're walking and you're on this journey called life, when you're developing yourself, your own self-identity, self-awareness, and becoming whole within yourself, there are going to be things that come in your way. There are going to be things that are all in your way. But you got to understand that God is going to be one step ahead of you, protecting you and guarding you. One step behind you, covering you. And one step beside you, walking with you. If you allow God to do that. God is waiting. We have a God that sits high and looks low on us, waiting, just waiting on us to be prepared to move. He's watching us every step of the way. Isn't it an amazing feeling to know that you are seriously never alone? All you have to do is call on God and have faith. See, faith is a vital, vital, vital source. And faith also can help us cope and understand emotions. It can help us cope and learn how to communicate as well. Because if we think in the flesh, it's natural to have emotions. You're going to have emotions. I will never say don't be angry about things, but don't dwell on things. Don't become a person that's toxic. Because when you bottle up emotions, those things build up. And you're going to become a toxic person. And you're going to get yourself into toxic situations. You're going to develop toxic relationships. And that's very unhealthy. And you don't want to go down that path. But when you have faith in God, certain emotions and certain responses start to change. You don't get angry over the small things no more. You don't get saddened over things that don't make sense anymore, because your faith is bigger than your mindset. And your faith has to be bigger than your mindset. You got to get to a point where, when I say mindset, I'm talking about in the flesh, how we think on a daily basis. I'm not talking about a spiritual mind. Okay, I'm not talking about the spirit, because the spirit is separate. But you got to get to a point where you know, you got to walk with faith and walk knowing that God is always with you. But also something to think about with emotions. We all have triggers. And it's okay to remove yourself from those triggering situations. If you know that you're not gonna react appropriately, first of all, analyze the situation. And it's a lot easier said than done when it comes to analyzing situations. You don't want to become a person that's just so quick, because that goes back to my first question. Why are you reacting the way you're reacting? Who are you doing it for? You know? Because I remember when I was younger, I felt as though crying will make you seem weak. That's not true at all. That's not true. Being able to express emotions, be open with your emotions is a lot stronger than somebody who bottles them up. And I was a person who bottled my emotions up. So I can tell you, I'm speaking from experience. Don't become that person. So back to the triggers. Why do you respond the way you do to a situation? Remove yourself from those situations by all costs. If you can't remove yourself from those situations, which is something that I know a lot of people think about, because sometimes you feel stuck. You get into something, you're stuck. And it hurts being stuck and trapped when you know. I mean, that's another thing to think about too, is to know that you're under attack. Okay? The very response that you give off to something is the area in your life that's under attack. And that's something that we all have to learn and be able to develop and understand. So if you're so quick to get angry and you're so quick to break down and become saddened by things, don't let that emotion control your life. That's what's under attack. Depending on the situation it is, that's the area in your life that's under attack. So going back to what I was saying, trigger points. You're in a situation, you can't remove yourself from those situations. And that's where mental stability comes in. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have a mental shift. You have to want to change, because it's not going to happen overnight. And that's where prayer comes into place. One thing you want to do in this life is to pray for everything and thank God through the trials and tribulations. Because you got to know, see, that's that faith right there. Just know that this is not the end. Just know that something greater is to come forward from it. You know, because I do not like that feeling of feeling stuck. And sometimes, like I've said in the last video, or probably the video before that, God sometimes wants you stuck. You may not understand the reason, but your broken place can sometimes bring up so much. It can sprout up your purpose, your destiny. It can sprout up the talents and gifts that you suppressed for years. So sometimes you're meant to be broken. Sometimes you're meant to be stuck. But controlling your emotions is something we all have to learn how to do. Find that peace. Find that stability. It's a lot of things you can do. Meditation, so forth, breathing techniques. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about prayer. I'm here to talk about having faith in God to get you through these things. Pray your way through it. If you got to sit there and pray all day, all night long until you feel something, then do that. But faith, I'm telling you, your mindset will really, the state of mind that you have has so much impact on where you go in life. Like for me, I know without a shadow of doubt that I have something on my life and that God is watching me every step of the way. No matter what comes my way, I'm going and I am moving and I am moving because I know God is with me. You got to get like that. Know that God is with you regardless. And I'm going to keep talking about God being with us because it's something that we forget. We don't even realize we forget it, because if we didn't forget it, then why sometimes when we go through stuff we don't pray? Why? Why don't sometimes we're afraid to pray about things? It's that doubt. And we got to get up that doubt, because that's doubt. We can't have doubt in God. It's because we set our expectations on people and things. They have to forget that, wait a minute. This God is a gracious God. This God is a merciful God. This God has brought me through so much in the past. I know God gonna bring me through this. You got to get to that place. But all in all, I just came to pretty much talk. You know, talk a few things out, talk about maturity, challenge your emotions, and so forth. Hope you enjoyed my little tangent, my little rant. And thank you for watching.